And when you look at the coaching evaluation of Jedd Fisch, overall, I'm giving him a B-. And remember, 5 categories here. Overall, recruiting, game management and scheme, player development, assistant hires. Right now, I'm giving Jedd Fisch a B-, which I think is slightly above average. Now, that's a tough thing for me to defend. I'm going to here after a 1-11 first season. That's pretty darn rough. But what you have to remember about Jedd Fisch's Arizona Wildcats when he came in 2021 down from the NFL is he was taking over a disaster of a football program that had lost 12 consecutive games. I will say that again. When Jedd Fisch became the head coach, Arizona football had lost 12 in a row. That's, as one guy says in The Big Short, it's not great. Okay, so it's really not what you would like to be taking over, but he's, done about as good a job as you can. Like, I won't say it's been perfect because it was still a 1-11 season. We've seen coaches come in and do, a quicker turnaround than that. He did start 0-8. They lost to NAU. You should never lose to NAU. I don't care if you've lost 12 in a row. You should not lose to NAU as a Power 5 football program. That's not a thing. That's not a thing that should ever happen. That's why this grade isn't higher, right? I'm tempted to give him a B or a B+. I think he should be above average, but that loss against NAU, that is 100% glaring there. But overall, B-. Recruiting, I give him an A. I absolutely give him an A. And if you've been watching this entire series I've been doing, evaluating these coaches, I do not hand out A's like candy on Halloween. I do not. But he gets an A for recruiting because who in their right mind saw a top 25 caliber high school recruiting class down to Tucson, not a historical football power or recruiting power? Who saw that coming after a 1-11 season? Anyone? Bueller? No, me neither. It's remarkable. It's really remarkable what he's been able to do on the recruiting trail so far. And, typically you would build little by little on the trail. And I would say, all right, incremental progress here, right? Getting the ranking up from what it was the previous year. You got to keep building it, keep going for. I mean, they just shot up the recruiting rankings in the class of 2022. And I was thinking like, if you can get the top 50, that'd be good. But top 25 right now, I mean, if he keeps recruiting at this level, I think the on-field results are at least going to be a lot easier for him to deliver, which is certainly something that Wildcats fans are hoping that he's able to do. But the other thing you have to factor in with their recruiting classes is the transfer portal. And they've been pretty darn good in the transfer portal. They have the 30th ranked portal class this year. They had Jaden DeLore, the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, who's likely going to be their starting quarterback. They had Hunter Echols, an edge player from USC with some big physical upside. Didn't quite deliver with the Trojans, but was still a solid player in the conference. You had Jacob Cowing, a 4-star rated transfer and probably a preseason. I was reading somewhere, and I'll do a breakdown here in the coming episodes and such, but I was reading somewhere Cowing, like a preseason first team all caliber receiver after a wildly productive year at UTEP a season ago for the Miners down in El Paso. I mean, that's a lot of really good stuff. They beat out Oregon for Tetairoa McMillan, the receiver. That should just be McMillan. I don't know why I said Macmillan, but T-Mac as they call him. I mean, there have been a lot of good things. So recruiting right now for Jedd Fisch gets an A. His game management and scheme, not going to get as high of a grade. I'll tell you why after I remind you that you probably love chocolate brownies, and I do too. I mean, who doesn't? My brother, for one, but that's because he's weird. And if you like chocolate brownies, how would you like to, maybe incorporate like a caramel swirl in there? Does that sound good? Yeah, I bet it does. Now, what if I told you could get all that chocolatey, chewy, caramely deliciousness with 17 grams of protein? That was a mouthful, but I want to have a mouthful of caramel brownie bars from Built. You got to act fast because they're a fan favorite. Forget about dessert. They have 17 grams of protein, 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. The game management and scheme for Jedd Fisch is not something that he gets a particularly high mark. So for me, C is average, C+, slightly above, B-, even more so, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We always say et cetera. It's actually et cetera, if you didn't know, right? ETC. Anyway, yada, yada, yada. So his game management scheme at this point, to me, grades just below average. right? I don't think it's been so bad that it's been a D+ because he's working with a huge talent deficiency at Arizona right now. But he comes into a situation with a bad roster, right? I mean, like, we understand that. But I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I stand by that particular claim, which is coaches have come into bad situations and turned things around in terms of wins and losses better than Jedd Fisch has done so far. And though the talent is a part of that, and they just don't have the players and they need to get some recruiting wins, which they've been doing, the other component to it is you had better players than NAU, and you still lost that game at home. That's not great. Now, can he develop as a game manager and schemer and play caller? Yes. This grade can always, all of these grades can, go up or down or stay the same depending on how things continue to go. And next offseason, of course, we'll be doing that. And so that's why you should like and subscribe wherever you're listening to or watching the show right now, so you can stay up to date with that sort of stuff and see if my opinions do end up changing about these coaches, because it's likely to happen with more than one head football coach in the Pac-12. But I think we've seen great scheme coaches come in before and make a big-time impact. I think Lincoln Riley's about to do that at USC, right? They don't have all the guys, though they have a lot of them from the transfer portal, but not all the guys that they'll have from a roster depth perspective that they'll probably have in like 2 or 3 years. But just schematically, if you put Lincoln Riley, even with, what USC had a season ago, not what they have now, but if you put Lincoln Riley as the head coach, they would not have gone 4-8, right? He would have improved them by a couple games, and Jedd Fisch hasn't shown that yet. So he gets a C- in the game management and scheme department. And I think he's still got a lot to prove as a play caller and as a game manager, but it's very early in his tenure. So this grade can go up, but the early returns, not what Arizona fans probably would like to see, but the recruiting returns, yeah, they've been good so far. Player development, I can't give him a grade yet. He's only been there for 1 season, so that's TBD. They had a quarterback carousel a season ago. That certainly couldn't have helped with the scheme and game planning and such. But I think we wait to make a determination there and say, okay, let's see how he does develop some of the young freshmen that he's bringing in, or can his staff elevate any of the transfers that I was alluding to a moment ago, or help them, kind of work in seamlessly. How does Jayden de Laura look after being the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year? Does he take a major step forward with a guy who's got NFL credentials, having worked under Sean McVay and Bill Belichick, or does he take a step back because it doesn't click and de Laura's more used to a college offense? That sort of stuff we're just going to have to wait and see. But finally here, assistant hires. I give him a B. I think he's been pretty darn good here. Now, one hire, I like his defensive coordinator a lot more than his offensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator is Brennan Carroll, who is Pete Carroll's son, and he was the run game coordinator and offensive line coach for the Seahawks for the last couple of seasons. I am a diehard Seahawks fan because I hail from the Pacific Northwest, painfully. And yeah, I'm a Mariners fan too. Yeah, I know it's terrible. It's really, really awful and whatnot. But when I look at run game coordinator and O-line coach for the Seahawks and think about how those elements of the team have been over the last couple of years, they've kind of stunk. Now, the upside of hiring Brennan Carroll is he adds to the pedigree of the staff that will help on the recruiting trail, and clearly has, which is when you come down from the National Football League to the college ranks and you have to make a pitch to recruits, normally that pitch is going to include some semblance of, I know what it takes to get to the NFL and I can help you get there. That's what I like about Brennan Carroll, but run game coordinator, O-line coach, not quite as high on that particular decision there as his offensive coordinator for Jedd Fisch. But I do like the defensive coordinator that they've hired. Johnny Nansen is his name, and his resume to me at this point in time is better than Brennan Carroll's, and here's why. He was the 2017 Pac-12 Recruiter of the Year. If you're going to rebuild a program, you got to recruit. He clearly knows how to do that, and according to 24/7 Sports, he was the best in the conference 5 years ago. He was the defensive line coach at UCLA, and their run defense was really, really good. So whereas what Carroll was managing was not so good with the Seahawks, in the conference, Nansen was over at UCLA, and their run defense was really good. Now, Jerry Azzinaro was a terrible defensive coordinator, didn't coach the guys very well, and just blitzed the house every time on third down. Their pass defense was atrocious, but their run defense was pretty darn good. This past season, under Johnny Nansen as the defensive coordinator, Arizona was second in the Pac-12 in passing yards allowed per game, but their rush defense was pretty bad. And so I think as Nansen gets to, recruit his own guys and implement a system, if that area can improve, then the defense is going to continue to improve. And the other thing the other reason that I like Nansen, at least so far in his tenure with the Wildcats down in Tucson, is every major defensive metric for the Wildcats on that side of the ball improved from the previous season. To me, that's an immediate impact, right? Talking about Jedd Fisch, and he's the head coach, he's a play caller, so he, bears the responsibility of wins and losses at the end of the day. Schematically, he hasn't been able to come in and make a big turnaround there. But Nansen, I'm seeing a bunch of tangible steps statistically, and just when you watch them play. I mean, they held Cal to 3 points. Now, Cal doesn't have a very good offense, but still, you held a conference opponent to 3 points. Oregon didn't even score that many points on him in Autzen Stadium until the end of the game, and that was including a defensive touchdown. Like, the defense has done some nice things, so I think that's a good hire, and that's why I give Jedd Fisch a B right now for his assistant hires 1 year in. Not as high as Brennan Carroll, but Johnny Nansen, early returns, I think pretty good. Assistant hire is a B. Player development, TBD. Game management and scheme, C-. Recruiting, an A. Overall, a B- for Jedd Fisch as he enters year 2 in 2022. I appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and have a wonderful rest of your day.